144 years. That is how long one of the most powerful corporations in the history of American industry called a single state its legal home. Then, on July 1, 2026, after a shareholder vote that passed with 71% approval, it wasn't home anymore. It was a verdict. The state got a verdict, and its governor said nothing. Hey everyone, welcome back. It is 1882, a company called Standard Oil of New Jersey files its incorporation papers in the Garden State. The name tells you everything. This company and this state are, at the most fundamental legal level, the same noun. Over the next century and change, it builds the Bayway refinery in Linden, one of the largest on the eastern seaboard, and employs generations of New Jersey workers. It becomes then it merges with Mobil. It becomes Exxon Mobil, one of the largest publicly traded companies on earth, with a market capitalization that at various points exceeds $500 billion. For 144 years, the state of New Jersey is in that company's legal DNA. The company physically moves its headquarters to Texas in 1989. Not a blip. The CEO doesn't set foot in New Jersey for board meetings. None of them do. The board of directors stops meeting in New Jersey entirely. For more than 40 years, not a single board meeting on New Jersey soil. And yet the legal domicile, the official registered home, the state that governs the company's incorporation rules, shareholder rights, and regulatory framework, the address on the founding document stays in New Jersey. Then, on March 10, 2026, the board files a preliminary proxy statement with the unanimous recommendation. Shareholders vote on May 27. 71.3% vote yes. Effective date, July 1, 2026. The company's name changes. Exxon Mobil Corporation of New Jersey ceases to exist. Exxon Mobil Holdings Corporation of Texas takes its place. 144 years. Gone. I'm talking about Exxon Mobil, the largest oil company in the United States. Incorporated in 1882 as Standard Oil of New Jersey, now legally domiciled in Spring, Texas, just north of Houston, where its executive leadership, its research facilities, 75% of its American workforce, and the last 40 years of its actual operational life have already been based. ExxonMobil generated revenues of over $390 billion in 2023. Its chairman and CEO is Darren Woods, a graduate of Texas A&M University who has run the company since January 2017. And on March 10, 2026, Darren Woods issued a statement explaining exactly why they left, and exactly what New Jersey failed to be. But here's what nobody is telling you about this story. This redomiciliation, that word means the legal transfer of a company's registered home from one state to another, is not about office space or employee relocations. None of that changes. What changes is the legal and regulatory framework that governs every shareholder dispute, every major corporate decision, every governance question that arises for one of the biggest companies in the world. ExxonMobil is moving because Texas in 2023 created the Texas Business Court, a specialized, dedicated legal venue for complex corporate disputes, built specifically to handle cases like the ones ExxonMobil deals with. New Jersey has no equivalent. Delaware has long been the default for corporate incorporation, but Texas is actively taking that market. In New Jersey, sitting on the highest corporate tax rate in the nation at 11.5%, 2 full points above the next worst state, is watching it happen and has no credible answer. The board of ExxonMobil didn't hold a single meeting in New Jersey for over 40 years. The CEO's statement said out loud what every departing company's lawyers say only in private. And that statement is why this isn't a business story. It's a warning shot, because this pattern has a very predictable ending, and we've seen it play out before. This is New York Reports, and this is where we follow the money. Subscribe and hit that like button if you want more of this. And here's my question for the comments. When a company gives a state 144 years and the state can't hold on to even the paperwork, who's actually responsible for what comes next? Drop it below. Let's get into it. First, let's understand who ExxonMobil actually is, because the scale of this might not be familiar to everyone, and it absolutely should be. Standard Oil of New Jersey was incorporated in 1882, 4 years before the Statue of Liberty was dedicated. 11 years before the New Jersey Shore became a vacation destination of record. It was part of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Trust. And when that trust was broken up by the Supreme Court in 1911, it became Humble Oil, then it became ESO, then Exxon, in 1972, and then, in 1999, it merged with Mobil, another Standard Oil descendant, to become ExxonMobil, in what was at the time the largest corporate merger in history. For the next 2.5 decades, ExxonMobil ran its actual operations from Texas, headquarters in Irving, then relocated to Spring, Texas in 2023. Research facilities in Texas, corporate leadership in Texas, 75% of its American workers in Texas, about 30% of its entire global workforce in Texas. The board had not held a meeting in New Jersey for more than 40 years. But the legal domicile, the incorporation, sat in New Jersey like a relic, an artifact of 1882, a name on a founding document that the company had long since outgrown. On March 10, 2026, Darren Woods filed the paperwork to change it. And then, before the shareholder vote even happened, he said publicly what New Jersey needed to hear. On March 10, 2026, Exxon Mobil's board unanimously recommended that shareholders vote to redomicile the company from New Jersey to Texas. Shareholders voted on May 27. The measure passed with 71.3% support. On June 22, the company announced the effective date, July 1, 2026. And on July 1, Exxon Mobil Corporation of New Jersey ceased to exist. CEO Darren Woods issued the company's framing in plain terms. Over the past several years, Texas has made a noticeable effort to embrace the business community, he said. In doing so, it has created a policy and regulatory environment that can allow the company to maximize shareholder value, aligning our legal home with our operating home. In a state that understands our business and has a stake in the company's success is important. Read that again. A state that understands our business and has a stake in the company's success. That is a CEO of one of the most powerful corporations on earth, saying, on the record, that New Jersey does not understand their business and does not have a stake in their success. That is not a press release. That is a breakup letter. But here's what nobody's actually saying out loud. The official framing from Exxon Mobil and from much of the financial press has treated this as procedural. A cleanup of an anachronistic legal structure, aligning paperwork with reality. And that is technically accurate. Operationally, nothing changes. But the SEC filing tells a more pointed story. Exxon Mobil noted, in its own proxy materials, that Texas has a predictable and common-sense regulatory environment designed to support innovation, job creation, and economic growth. The implicit contrast to New Jersey is not subtle. And when you look at what happened to New Jersey's corporate tax rate in 2024, a 2.5% surcharge called the corporate transit fee added on top of the existing 9% rate, taking the total to 11.5%, you understand that cleaning up the paperwork is not the whole sentence. The paperwork cleanup is the last thing that leaves. Everything else already walked out the door. This is not a one-time event. This is an execute. Hertz Global Holdings moved its headquarters from Park Ridge, New Jersey to Florida in 2013. Gone. Mercedes-Benz USA relocated its American headquarters from Montvale, New Jersey to Atlanta, Georgia in 2015. Gone. Honeywell International moved its headquarters from Morris Plains, New Jersey to Charlotte, North Carolina. Gone. Sealed Air Corporation departed. Bristol-Myers Squibb shifted jobs. Johnson & Johnson relocated 620 positions to North Carolina and Pennsylvania. And on June 1, 2026, less than a week after the Exxon Mobil shareholder vote, Samsung Electronics America announced it was closing its Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey headquarters, which had only opened in September 2025, and moving to Plano, Texas, taking approximately 1,000 employees and over $100 million in annual payroll with it. 9 months from ribbon cutting to relocation announcement, all gone, all landing in Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, states with lower taxes or no corporate income tax at all. The state that gave them their legal identity is waving them goodbye. When Exxon Mobil's shareholders voted on May 27, 2026 to leave New Jersey, Governor Mickey Sherrill's office did not issue a public statement in response. When Samsung announced its departure on June 1, 5 days later, NJ.com, CoStar, and multiple New Jersey outlets reached out to the governor's office for comment. Her office declined. Read that again. The largest company in New Jersey history, incorporated there since 1882. And a 1,000-person Fortune 500 electronics company, both announcing departure in the same week, and the state's chief executive declined to comment on either. The New Jersey Business and Industry Association did not stay quiet. Its president and CEO, Michelle Sikirka, said in a public statement, "These are not accidents, nor are they coincidences, with New Jersey maintaining the highest corporate tax rate in the nation, by far, and its national reputation for business unfriendliness through regulation and other costs and burdens. We have seen our Fortune 500 companies go from 22 in 2018 to 15 in 2025. She also noted that Governor Sherrill has signaled the need and want to improve our business climate, offering a word of cautious optimism. But signals are not policy. And the governor's silence in that specific week, in response to those specific departures, was itself a kind of signal. Republican Assemblyman John Atzariti issued a statement naming the pattern directly. Mercedes-Benz, Honeywell, Hertz, Sealed Air, Exxon Mobil, Samsung. The list, he noted, keeps growing. The governor said nothing. That is a quiet verdict on who is doing the defining work in Trenton right now. So, let's follow the money. Because this is where the real story lives. New Jersey's corporate tax rate stands at 11.5%, the highest in the nation. According to the Tax Foundation's 2026 comparison, that rate is the 9% base corporation business tax plus a 2.5% corporate transit fee surcharge enacted in 2024, applied to corporations with New Jersey taxable net income exceeding $10 million. The national median top marginal corporate rate is 6.5%. Only 3 other states are above 9%, Minnesota at 9.8%, Illinois at 9.5%, and Alaska at 9.4%. Meanwhile, Texas charges no corporate income tax. None. Large companies pay a franchise tax of 0.75%, a fraction of New Jersey's rate. Georgia has been reducing its corporate rate and now sits at 5.09%. North Carolina sits at 2.5% and is headed lower. Stack that on top of the fact that in 2024, New Jersey passed the budget that increased the effective rate to 11.5% at the exact moment Exxon Mobil was already moving its research and development operations from New Jersey to Texas, which it had begun in 2024. The timing is not coincidental. The R&D left first, the legal domicile left second. The filing notes it plainly. Texas has legislators, judges, and juries that are more familiar with our business and are more likely to provide legal certainty. Exxon Mobil also cited the 2023 creation of the Texas Business Court, a specialized venue for complex corporate disputes, as a structural advantage. New Jersey simply does not offer. For a company managing a $300+ billion revenue base, 11.5% versus 0 is not a philosophical question. That's arithmetic. Now, let's talk about the people this actually touches, because it's never really the executives who feel it first. I'll call her Linda. Not her real name, but her situation is real for thousands of people across this state. Linda is 43 years old. She's a senior process technician at a refinery in Linden, New Jersey, the Bayway Refinery, which Exxon Mobil still operates and which is not going anywhere. She's been there for 16 years. Union job, good benefits. She followed her father into the work, the same as he followed his. Her family has been in this industry in New Jersey for 2 generations. The refinery isn't closing. The redomiciliation doesn't touch her shift schedule or her pension. But Linda has been watching. She saw Exxon Mobil move its research team to Texas in 2024. She's heard colleagues talk about the Samsung announcement. She watches companies leave. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, one name at a time. She knows what a shrinking tax base means for state services. She knows what a shrinking job market means for her kids, who are in high school now and starting to think about where they want to build their lives. She's not losing her job this month, but she's watching the floor get a little thinner every single year, and she knows exactly what that eventually leads to. Here is how it works. Each step causes the next. The state needs revenue. It raises the corporate tax rate, adding the corporate transit fee surcharge in 2024, taking the rate to 11.5%, the highest in the nation. The state's largest filers absorb the hit. Some of them start reassessing. Research and development operations move to lower-cost states first. That's what Exxon Mobil did in 2024. Then, the legal domicile follows. That's what Exxon Mobil did in 2026. Then, the headquarters follows. That's what happened with Mercedes-Benz, Honeywell, and Hertz years earlier. High-paying jobs leave with the headquarters. The state raises other rates or fees to compensate. The remaining large businesses face higher costs. Some of them leave. Talent stops relocating to the state because the employment base is thinner. Population growth stalls. The affordability crisis the politicians promised to fix gets worse, not better. That is a death spiral. Illinois watched it play out in real time. Net population losses every year for a decade. 7 Fortune 500 companies departing since 2015. California accelerated it with a 13.3% personal income tax rate that drove Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, Enterprise, and Charles Schwab to Texas. And New Jersey, which has already lost 32% of its Fortune 500 company count in 8 years, is watching it advance in real time right now. And here's what should stop every single person watching this cold. This isn't a New Jersey story. This isn't even an Exxon Mobil story. This is a playbook. California enacted the nation's highest personal income tax rate and watched its largest companies, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, Enterprise, Tesla, SpaceX, Charles Schwab, leave for Texas and Nevada. Illinois matched New Jersey on anti-business rhetoric and lost 7 of the 22 Fortune 500 companies that were headquartered there. Connecticut has an unfunded pension liability of over $35 billion, driven partly by a decade of high earners and businesses quietly exiting for lower-cost states. And in every case, the political leaders most responsible for the tax environment that drove the departures expressed surprise when the departures arrived, as if the companies were making a personal statement rather than a financial calculation. The formula is always the same. High taxes, heavy regulation, political leaders who treat successful businesses as a fixed resource rather than a choice, who assume that the name on the building will always be there because it always has been. and then genuine shock when a company that incorporated in 1882 files a proxy statement in 2026 and says, plainly, that another state understands its business better. Go back to 1882. Standard Oil of New Jersey. The name itself is a declaration of place. For 144 years through to world wars, through the Great Depression, through the breakup of a monopoly, through a merger that made history, that name, in some form, was tied to the Garden State. And then the board filed one document with the SEC, unanimous recommendation, and it was done. The refinery is still in Linden. The gas stations still carry the name. But the legal entity, the thing that says where this company belongs, whose courts govern its disputes, whose regulatory framework defines its obligations, that is now in Texas. And CEO Darren Woods said why. Not in a lawyer's careful non-statement, in a direct sentence that named what Texas did and left the contrast to New Jersey entirely implicit, because the contrast didn't need to be stated. The state that housed Standard Oil since 1882 already knew what it had failed to be. It just hadn't heard it said that clearly before. Exxon Mobil isn't the problem. Exxon Mobil is the warning. The company's CEO said publicly, in plain language, that Texas created a business environment that allows Exxon Mobil to maximize shareholder value, and that it matters to be in a state that understands your business and has a stake in your success. New Jersey's governor declined to respond. Not just to Exxon Mobil's departure, to Samsung's departure 5 days later. To the question of whether 11.5%, the highest corporate rate in the nation, nearly double the national median, is a sustainable foundation for a state economy that has already lost 32% of its Fortune 500 companies in 8 years. The silence is not a strategy. It is the absence of one. ExxonMobil isn't the problem. ExxonMobil is the warning. And in New Jersey right now, the only official response seems to be a declined call and a closed press office. That's not policy. That's New Jersey choosing not to compete. Now, I want to hear from you. If you work in New Jersey in any industry, not just energy, have you felt this shift in the last few years? Are the companies around you growing their New Jersey footprint, or quietly trimming it? And if you've worked for a company that made this kind of move, what was the real reason given internally? Was it ever just about the paperwork? Drop it in the comments because these conversations matter far more than the people making these decisions want you to think. And if this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into stories that actually affect your life and your wallet, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Stay informed, stay sharp, and never stop following the money. I'll see you in the next one.